Welcome to NOPC, the New Orleans podcast. And today's a very special episode. We are celebrating
the Saints kick off Monday Night Football against the Texans. And we have with us today a special guest. But first off, I'm Lance Arnold.
And I'm Richard Dubas.
And today we have Michael Hotard of the Hotard Huddle. That's a podcast, and do you do blogs with it?
Blog, podcast, a little bit of everything, kind of dabble into some video, and then podcast. Mainly a blog, and pertains a lot to sports, hence the name Hotard Huddle, but it's a little bit of everything.
So that's what we're going to get to our segment on news today. We're going to talk about the Saints, and we're going to talk about the season that they're going to have. And but before we do that, we also have to show off with
some trivia.
So the trivia question today is, in 1988, the Saints put out a comic book. I don't know if the Saints put it up, but there's a comic book put out. They were going to have some editions, but in the very first edition, they had two Saints legends on the cover. There was Bobby Hebert and this other player. Who is this other player?
And we're back to try some beer.
Yeah,
what do we have today?
Well, Saints themed show. This beer just came out on Monday, on Labor Day. WHO DAT Golden Ale by Urban South Brewery. We're going to cover Urban South Brewery another time, but Urban South just started about 3 years ago. They're on Chapatoulas. I've been there. We actually load our floats across the street for St. Patrick's Parade, so we go over there, grab some beers, and so I'm very familiar with their beer. But they came out with this new WHO DAT Golden Ale, and what's unique about it is, and if you can see right there on the can, it's 5.04% alcohol.
Like the 0.04%.
Well, it's because it's 504, and they said it's made in 99% humidity, which if anything's made in New Orleans, it's made in 99% humidity.
Without a doubt.
I don't know if y'all remember a few years ago, the NFL was trying to trademark or sue people using the WHO DAT, and it turns out that somebody else had the rights to WHO DAT. And so the brewery's working with the guy who has the rights to WHO DAT, Steve Monteris, and he's working with the brewery, but he's most famous for putting together the song with Aaron Neville and some of the Saints players years ago in 1983, the WHO DAT, When Saints Go Marching In. But just a little bit about the beer. Let's go ahead and open one up. Take one.
Oh, okay.
Open it. And as we drink, I'll tell you a little more about it. So, WHO DAT Golden Ale this is what they say, is offered as an easy drinking beer synced to outdoor pre-game partying or the long haul for sipping through 4 quarters. So they're saying this should be a lighter beer, not a heavy beer, that you can just drink a whole bunch of them. I remember last week they were saying about smashing all the beers.
So we should just shotgun them right now then, right?
That's what I'm saying. But, we'll go ahead and drink the first one just to taste it.
Yeah.
So cheers, WHO DAT.
Cheers, WHO DAT.
Kind of stole a drink already, but you know. That's good.
Yeah, it is really good.
It is light enough to have at least one for each quarter.
Absolutely.
This will probably have you wishing that we go into overtime.
But you'll have to grab your fourth one before the start of the fourth quarter. I do know that.
They won't be selling this in the Dome because it's Gail Benson doesn't own this brewery. They do sell other beers besides Dixie beers in the Dome, y'all.
But we'll say, some of the people online, when we said that we were going to review, were a little worried that the taste would be a little cheap, but it's not. It's a very good beer.
No, I like it. It's based on sales, they're going to determine if they're going to keep it going. If it's going to be a year-round beer or not. It's selling through the roof right now. When I went to Bro Marto magazine, they had stacks of cases of this thing. I bought a case, and as soon as I got home, my dad took a 6-pack of it. My son took a 6-pack of it. So I'm down to just about these.
and Hotard might take a 6-pack of it.
But yeah, absolutely.
You can go down to their brewery and their tap room and get this beer, but on September 8th for kickoff of the football season, they're going to have a party and they're introducing 2 other beers. They're going to have Hoppa Style.
Nice.
Hoppa Style, which is a double IPA. And they're going to have another one called Never Bitter, but slightly petty after the no call in the NFC Championship game last season. So these 2 beers are going to be a limited run, the Hoppa Style and the Never Bitter.
If you want to talk about knowing your audience and knowing your market, they're doing it the right way.
Yeah. Both of these and this one can be found in their tap room, and I like it. I think this is something.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's definitely a really good beer. When it gets hot, this is probably one you want to grab.
So, thank you, Urban South. And who dat?
Who dat?
Cheers.
We're here with the news, and this is why we brought you in, Michael Hotard, to give us some Saints insider news, maybe even some Texans news as we face them on Monday.
The only news that matters this week is kickoff.
That's right.
So, Monday night, I'll be at the game. I don't know, y'all might be at the game, but we're playing the Texans, and I just know from reading that a lot of people were predicting, the Saints are going to lose to the Texans and run off 10 in a row like we did the other year when we lost to Tampa Bay in the first game. But the Texans are going through some troubles. They traded away one of their best players, and they've done a lot of weird moves just lately. And it doesn't really matter. It just matters how much the Saints are going to win by. So, why don't you break down the game in that vein?
Well, first and foremost, I'm unfortunately going to miss it. I'm going to be at sea on Monday night as we're heading on a cruise. But the second I can check my phone, I'll be looking at that score. But as far as the Saints-Texans go, you mentioned Texans and some of the moves they're making. One of those being Jadeveon Clowney, who they just traded, who's one of their best pass rushers, not named J.J. Watt. So they got rid of him to essentially just dump what was going to be a large contract. And it's the classic case of get rid of him while you still can. So you saw them make that move. And then one of the other big things that happened recently is they lost Lamar Miller this season, their starting running back. But ultimately, the motor of the team relies on quarterback Deshaun Watson, receiver DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, these two, as long as they're on the field, the Texans are a team you have to worry about.
Yeah, and then Texans are my favorite AFC team. They have been since their inception, and pretty much every AFC team I like better than any other NFC team. I hope all AFC teams go undefeated.
Yeah.
At least against NFC teams, except for us, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Except for playing against us. So, given... I just question about how much the Saints going to shut them out by. Maybe a little bit more since they don't. Maybe we'll win 50-0 now since they don't have Jadeveon Clowney. But I guess you're not as much as a homer as I am. So what do you think is going to happen?
I think Saints take the W on Monday night.
We're pissed. Our team's pissed.
Yeah.
We're going to come back on national TV and wish it was the Rams.
So
yeah, it's with the Saints-Texans game, with them opening up on Monday night in the Dome, that crowd is going to be loud, it's going to be obnoxious, it's going to be ruckus.
You will.
But no, I like the Saints in this one, and I'll actually go on record and say I think Saints win this one 34-24.
Sure. I
think it'll be a competitive game until the end. Maybe Saints get that late score that really just puts them over the edge in the fourth. But I'll take the Saints in week one.
Let's do our predictions real quick. I predict the Saints are going to go 19-0. They're
just staying humble.
Yeah,
staying humble.
I'm not sure anybody will score anything but field goals maybe on them because kickers are good now. They can kick 60, 70-yard field goals. So somebody's bound to score on us. But Richard, what do you think?
I'm thinking a little more modest. I'm thinking 10-6, 11-5. The conference is really tough. It's just a lot of questions. Like, is Cam Newton not going to be hurt this year?
So you have them not making the playoffs and playing those extra games?
No, I think they're going to make the playoffs.
So you need to add three more to your win total. So you think they're going to be 14-5?
I'm being modest. We gotta be in the middle.
So how many wins are the Saints going to have?
Unfortunately, guys, I got them going.
There's a positive podcast, so I might have wins.
Yeah. We'll cut you out.
Well, here's the positive part about it. I have them winning more games than they're losing, but unfortunately, I think they're 9-7 this year. So I have them right around the 10-6 mark, but I have them finishing off the season 9-7. And unfortunately, guys, because of how competitive the NFC is,
don't get there yet. I know what you're going to say because I'm going to ask you this question: who's coming in second in the NFC South? Who's playing for second out of the other three teams?
Out of the other three teams, well, unfortunately, I think one goes ahead, but I think the Saints wind up finishing second in the NFC South this year.
Okay, that's enough beer for you.
Cut them off. Cut them off.
So, Mike's been crushing a few beers before we started.
Yeah, that's where it is. That's it.
Oh, jeez.
If you're watching this, Melissa, I promise you, I'm not driving home drunk.
And if y'all know who'd you pick to win the division?
Do you really want that answer?
Yeah, go ahead and say it. Well, I'll be right back. Go ahead and tell them who you picked.
Well, guys, Spoiler alert, it's the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, man.
And we have a prop for that.
I don't think so. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons stand a chance. Since this year I have this now. But they don't stand a chance anyway. I got the pin, so I can go ahead and stab
into the heart.
Hey, man.
But,
do you.
But no, if anybody knows anything about me out there, you know that how much I just hate Atlanta. I hate everything Atlanta. But I hate Atlanta so much that my favorite movie is Gone with the Wind. I watch it on repeat just to watch Atlanta burn.
Burn to the ground.
So once the Saints go undefeated in the regular season, who do we have to worry about in, say, the division round and the NFC Championship? Who are we going to beat in those two?
As far as the conference goes this year,
and you have to work under the assumption that the Saints are going to be in both of those games.
I'll work on that assumption, but I think the real test is coming from the NFC North. I think there's 3 teams in that division who can easily win 11 or more games, and that being the Green Bay Packers, number 1 because of Aaron Rodgers.
And he's rocking the mustache.
Oh, without a doubt. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is out to prove a point this year after 2 real down years for someone of his caliber. But moving down that ladder, the Chicago Bears had a hell of a year last year. That defense, they still have Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, a lot of guys there who can ball. And then you have Mitchell Trubisky, who really took a step up at quarterback for them last year. So as long as he can keep that same level of play, if not better, the Bears are someone you have to worry about as well. And the 3rd team in that division who's really tough is
the Lions.
The Lions, absolutely.
Stafford's a stud.
What a steal.
I heard Matt Patricia, man. He's just on top of everything.
If they weren't in what is one of the most competitive divisions, maybe. I do like Matt Patricia. That's what sucks. But the Vikings this year, I think they have a lot to prove, especially Kirk Cousins. That defense was great last year. The problem was Kirk Cousins just can't win against teams with winning records. He's got 3. I believe his record's 3-30.
And I went last summer. I went to Minneapolis, and I put the jinx on their stadium, so they don't have
Perfect.
Chance. It was right after we lost there. After that thing I don't want to talk about that happened there, but I went there later that year, and I put the jinx on their stadium, so they ain't got a chance.
So speaking of quarterbacks, let's go back to the Saints a little bit. Who do you have, Taysom Hill or Teddy Bridgewater as the future?
Neither.
You have neither?
Neither. So I was talking about this with someone the other day. Teddy Bridgewater, while I think he's a good filler quarterback, if he comes in for a couple of games, I think it's a very winnable team because of the roster assembled around him. But if you're building your future around a guy who has barely eclipsed 3,000 yards in a season twice, who his most touchdowns he threw in a season's 14.
Sean Payton seems to know quarterbacks, and I remember when Teddy Bridgewater was in the draft, Sean Payton couldn't take him. We had Drew, but Sean Payton loved him. He would have taken Teddy Bridgewater probably in the 2nd round.
Like I said, he's a good filler guy. I think if he were to come in a transition year, I think he could easily win 9-10 games. But the problem is his ceiling is only so high. So if I was going to rank him on a scale of 1 to 10, I think his ceiling's about a 5. But he's never going to give you below a 4. You know what you're going to get out of him. Yeah. It's not great, but it's also not bad either. So it's a winnable situation.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, he's a 4 to an 8?
4 to a 6 at most.
So where's Taysom? Like a 2 to a 9?
Taysom, I don't know his ceiling, but I can tell you I don't know his floor either. I think Taysom, he's got that Swiss Army knife thing going down for him. He reminds me a lot of what Tebow could have been in the NFL. And Taysom's a guy you want on your roster.
Tebow couldn't even run like Taysom.
No, Tebow couldn't run like Taysom.
I've also seen Taysom stiff-arm D lineman. Yeah, it's in the preseason, but still stiff-arm.
What do you think about Sean Payton comparing him to Steve Young?
I think that the only comparison there is they both went to BYU.
Yeah, and they both could run.
Yeah, but no, I do like Taysom, and I think both of those guys deserve a spot on the roster. But if they really want to look for their quarterback of the future, they need to look to the draft.
So let's just say, who do you think the Saints are going to have to beat in the NFC Championship game?
In the NFC Championship, let's assume the Saints make it there. My prediction. Yeah, well, they are one of my picks to get there, but
That would be awesome to have the Falcons have to come to the Dome to play, because we'd have home field because we're the only.
well, assuming the Saints make the
Falcons
playoffs,
have at least 2 losses.
assuming the Saints make the playoffs, I will go on record and say Falcons.
Okay.
And I would love to see a Falcons Saints NFC Championship. That would be something to watch.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then the Saints win 28-3.
28-3.
28-3. Just turn the knife.
Yeah, but you realize the Falcons don't have Morton Anderson anymore as a kicker, so I doubt they'll score any.
But they got the next best thing, Matt Bryant. Another savvy vet.
Okay, so we have the Saints beating the Falcons in the NFC Championship game, 28-3. I guess we'll give them that 3. If the Saints are winning 28-0, would the Falcons kick that field goal?
Yes. Yes.
So they would kick that field goal, and then knowing that the game could end 28-3.
The Saints would put the fix in. Sean Payton would pay the entire Atlanta Falcons organization a mint to do that.
Yeah, just to kick that field goal.
Absolutely.
Time's running out. We'll get it. We won't even. We'll all just stand up.
We won't put our special teams on the field.
Kick that 70-yard field goal. That's as far as I got today.
Yeah. So, but no, I think Atlanta's going to be a tough one this year for sure. Now, the Falcons this year, though, one of the things that I think they're going to get a lot healthier on, and so is the NFC South as a whole.
Wait, just let me preface all this. I say we only say positive things on this podcast unless it's about Atlanta. Just letting you know in case you want to rail on them.
Yeah, absolutely. So they get healthier on defense. They didn't have Deion Jones last season. They didn't have their 2 starting safeties, Keanu Neal, Ricardo Allen. They get both of those guys back, shoring up the middle of the field on defense, which was abysmal last year. So I think they're going to be better. The big question mark, I think, in the NFC South is Newton. Just because last year, we were talking about this before the show, Cam Newton looked awful against the Saints in his last game of the season before they shut him down. I mean, the guy couldn't throw the ball 15 yards because of that shoulder injury. He literally looked like a kid out there, and not because he was pouting or anything like that. The guy physically, he just looked beat down, and I remember just leaving that game like, dude, what the hell? Because I mean, being a Saints season ticket holder, I've watched him play a lot of games, and that was the most I have seen him just worn down physically, because he's the guy who can go and bully you because of his size.
Yeah.
So he was terrible. So if he's healthy, Carolina's going to be another tough
he's like another Taysom Hill. He can run it.
Yeah.
Right?
He can do it all.
That's what I call Cam Newton. He's like Taysom Hill.
So you don't believe the Bruce Arians will fix Jameis Winston?
No, I don't. I got Bucks bottom feeding the division. I think they're better, but I don't see them even getting close to a winning record.
Maybe the SPCA can fix them.
Maybe. Or some crab legs. You never know.
No, Cam Newton, not Jameis.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm looking to get. They both can go to SPCA and get some free spay or neutering. I don't want to assume what sex they are.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's 2019.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, I think Cam identifies as a football player.
No, that's Taysom Hill.
Hey.
What position does he play?
Football. Okay, so the Saints are 18-0, heading into the Super Bowl. Mercury Moors be damned, and the Dolphins be damned, because the Saints are going to do it. They're going to win the Super Bowl. Who are we beating?
I hope to God it's Tom Brady and the Patriots. I wanted it bad last year. Something I want to see just to pretty much put the exclamation point on the era of what is the best quarterback era in football. I would love nothing more than to see a Tom Brady versus Drew Brees Super Bowl. Just for pure legendary factor alone. Because,
and the coaches, too.
Yeah, I mean, Belichick and Peyton, Brees, Brady, Belichick, I mean, that's 2 of the best coaching quarterback combos in the last 20 years.
Sure.
Without a doubt.
So, how much the Saints going to win by?
If they're playing the Patriots.
28-3?
No, that'd be great. But, no, maybe the Saints get up 28-3 and the Patriots fall just short of beating them. And, they cling on to that 28-3 lead by just enough. So, but no, I'd love to see that. I wanted it last year, so
we're going back to Miami.
That's an interesting fact.
We're going back to Miami. We're going to win another Super Bowl.
I wouldn't be mad. Who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
Cheers.
Well, we're here for entertainment, and we're going to break down the top 10 Saints songs brought to us by Rocky.
Top 10 Saints songs. If you've ever listened to music that other teams put out and people in their cities, it cannot compare. New Orleans has the best music, the best songs for their football team. The year of the Super Bowl, I probably had over 50 songs for the Saints, and I'm going to say like 20 of them were good. there was a lot of crap. But a lot of the ones that we're going to see on Rocky's list are ones from the Super Bowl year, and some of my favorite from the Super Bowl year. But the reason why this guy Rocky, who we're going to let him do the countdown, is because he is the ultimate Saints DJ. He'd been DJing for over 20 years, pre-game parties for the Saints, right outside the Superdome, outside of Allegro Bistro, which doesn't exist anymore. But he has the party. Some of the pictures you're seeing right now are just the party that Rocky threw, and it's just incredible. And he knows Saints music. Choppa, all these other artists, Baby Boy, they come and they jump on his microphone, stand on his speakers, and they sing, to the crowd. So he's that big of a DJ. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play Rocky's top 10.
Welcome to the Superdome. We gon' beat you up and send you home. The Saints. Go get it, Louisiana. The Saints. Welcome to the Superdome. We gon' beat you up and send you home. Welcome to the Superdome. We gon' beat you up and send you home. The Saints.
This is it, y'all. We about to get at them Falcons. 5-star T-Bone and the Who Dat Nation. We about to do them up second line style, y'all.
Forget what they said, forget what you heard. The Saints about to pluck them dirty birds. Forget what they said, forget what you heard. The Saints about to pluck them dirty birds. Pluck them dirty birds. Pluck them dirty birds. Pluck them dirty birds. Pluck them dirty birds.
Dirty birds, time to get the soap out. Wash them up real good, show 'em what we bout. Call you Falcon, better yet Falcon. Thought you were flying high until you met a Saint.
The Saints coming back. Tom Benson, where you at? Baby boy the Prince. Katrina couldn't stop us, New Orleans. Hey, #1 Saint fans.
This is the way we live. New Orleans Saints #1 on the field. Katrina couldn't stop us, and that's real. Beating these teams is no big deal, big deal, big. This is the way we live. New Orleans Saints #1 on the field. Katrina couldn't stop us, and that's real. Beating these teams is no big deal, big deal, big.
Let's get fired up. Let's get fired up. Let's get fired up. Let's get fired up.
There's a mighty team down in New Orleans. shadows will remain since your descent, your descent. The saints are coming, the saints are coming. I say no matter how I try, I realize it's all about the saints are coming, the saints are coming. I say no matter how I try, I realize it's all about the
We got that chopper in the house.
I feel that black and gold going back to the Super Bowl. To the Super Bowl. I feel that black and gold going back to the Super Bowl. I feel that black and gold going back to the Super Bowl. To the Super Bowl. I feel that black and gold going back to the Super Bowl. I feel that. Got a game face on, we ready, y'all know it's that time again. 4 quarters from an elite team that can't lose 'cause we came to win. They want a battle, but we ready for war, so tell them other teams, come on down. But when you make it to that Superdome, better beware when you hear this sound. Who that, who that, who that, who that, who that said they gon' beat them Saints?
KK's New Orleans savior. We yelling black and gold to the Super Bowl. Black and gold to the Super Bowl. Black and gold to the Super Bowl. We yelling who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that said they gon' beat them Saints? We yelling who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that said they gon' beat them Saints? Yeah, we going to Miami. Already tamed the Wildcat. Second line into that Super Bowl and bring that crown back. Brown bag days over, take that to the bank. Oh, watch your man and tell him this ain't your daddy. Same time Vincent, give a Vince to Drew Brees. Great Megan Payton, need New Orleans set of keys. Greg Williams, by air, by ground, West going touchdown. Push line to the pylon, no going out of bounds. Bella Rouge, Pierre Rouge, meet your Maliva, shock it, sock it to you.
Well, that was a really good list. There's a few exceptions I like to change on it.
Yeah, but there's a variety. There's some old stuff, some newer stuff on there. One that I did have a big problem with was number 9. I'm a Saints fan. It's not that it's a bad song. I just don't think the guy's from New Orleans. He calls it the New Orleans Superdome, which either you call it the Louisiana Superdome or the Mercedes-Benz Superdome or just the Superdome. But even bigger than that, he talks about us getting all hyped up because it's almost 1 o'clock and kickoff.
If we're just getting hyped up at 1 o'clock, we're doing it wrong.
We're late.
Right.
Yeah, we're late to the.
We missed the entire first quarter.
Yeah, the only time I ever started drinking at 1 o'clock for a Saints game was when I lived in West Virginia, and by law, you cannot start drinking until that late. So we're sitting in the bar watching the game, just watching our watches, saying, "Come on, drink, serve us a beer, serve us a beer." But no, so I think it's an all right song, but I just have a problem that guy's not from here. 1 o'clock, come on.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of the list, Mike?
Overall, I mean, it brings back a lot of memories from Super Bowl year, obviously, and it's one of the ones that goes back even further. To me, the first thing I think I told you when I listened to the list or saw the list was number 6, Baby Boy the Prince.
Yeah, the Prince.
With This Is the Way We Live, New Orleans rendition. That song brings me back to freshman year of high school, or sophomore year of high school, when the Dome reopens and that magical season. That song just reminds me of all those things, like Marcus Coulson, 7th round, the Steve Gleason block punt,
sure.
And the new era that is the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era in New Orleans, when you knew we're going to be all right.
Yeah, talking about that song talks about us coming back after Katrina.
Yeah.
So, and I want to go back even further because I referenced this song earlier here in the podcast, but one that Rocky did leave off, which is just classic, it'd be in my top 5, if not my top 3, is the Aaron Neville, Who Dat, When the Saints Go Marching In. I'll play it right now.
Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that?
Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. You know I want to be in that number. Oh, when the Saints go marching in.
Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that?
Oh, when that snake goes marching in. Oh, when that snake goes marching in. You know I want to be in that number. When that snake goes marching in. When that bum goes marching in. When that bum goes marching in. I said I want to be in that number. When that bum goes marching in.
Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that?
Bum 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 bum
Bum bum bum
bum bum bum bum
bum bum bum bum.
bum 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 bum
So, but no, that song with the Saints players and the old video, back at David Drive, they're singing on the field there in Neville. So they just also, and the references they make in that song, Kenny the Snake Stabler.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about Bum Phillips.
Yep.
So you got to be an old time Saints fan to get all the references in that one.
Yes.
So, but any other thoughts on it? The music?
I mean, the number 3 is a strong play with Green Day and U2.
Yeah.
The Saints are coming.
Yeah, that one always gives me chills.
Oh, without a doubt. You can't, as a Saints fan, you can't listen to that and not get goosebumps.
Yes, if this is the most powerful Saints songs, that'd be number 1.
Without a doubt.
But we got to play Crunk, because after we score a touchdown, that's what's
I've
happening.
heard that song a lot over the years.
Do you remember a few years back they tried to mix it up and they played Papa's Got a Brand New Bag and things like that instead of Crunk? And we just wouldn't stand for it. The fans were like, come on. I mean, I know the band's from Atlanta, but I think they've gone on record and said the Falcons suck, the Yin Yang Twins.
Yeah.
So in their video, they wear Saints jerseys.
They definitely...
Bush jerseys, or Raphael Bush jerseys.
They definitely went on Ellen DeGeneres' show and said that with, of course, Ellen DeGeneres being from New Orleans. So, but yeah, it's stand up and get crunk. I mean, with the Drew Brees Peyton era, with them being such a high-powered offense, there's so many times we heard that. I think maybe the only song that could possibly overtake that for after touchdowns would be something like Choppa Style, something New Orleans born.
Yeah.
And aside from that, no shot.
Yeah. So, hey, cheers to Rocky. That was a great list.
Good list. All right, so now this is really exciting for you viewers out there, is you're going to get a tour of our tavern.
Of the NolaSome Tavern. We promised you in a few shows that we would do this. Richard alluded to that I have more Saints paraphernalia here than the Superdome has, and maybe even the Saints Hall of Fame. I wouldn't say I have that much, but yeah, I do have a lot. And if you come over to my house for a game, which you don't have my address, so...
That was an open invitation?
Open invite!
But if you do tag the location here, it is called the Away Dome. Because, for home games, I'm not here. So... So if you know my address, you know when to come break into my house now.
You just set yourself up for the ultimate robbery.
But where will they see you in before home games?
Before home games. Okay, so before we do the tour, you can find me before home games, usually right where Allegro used to be, on Loyola and Lafayette Street. Lafayette's an alleyway right there, but you can usually find us right there, a half block off of Poydras, and it's WHO DAT Nation Fambulance. That's the official tailgate party of our podcast, mainly because me and my brothers run it, and we own the WHO DAT Fambulance. So come on out. We usually have a lot of food, but given hopefully that millions are going to start listening and watching this podcast, I don't have that much food, but we'd like to get to know you. So,
Get the chicken while it's hot,
Yeah, get there early.
And
my brother will be there early.
And there's a really fun tradition that y'all do is that y'all give a Jinx beer to an opposing.
Yeah, now I'll put some pictures up right now of that. Yeah, before every game, I have a beer and I give it away to somebody from the opposing team, and just saying thank you for coming to New Orleans. We appreciate the tourism. We're a tourism city, and it's just a sign of hospitality. And I get a picture drinking it with them, and then as soon as we walk away, we're like, okay, we got rid of the Jinx beer. Saints are gonna win. Hey, that's what we do in New Orleans.
Give them the Hex.
Hexes, Jinx,
definitely.
Voodoo dolls. So
we already saw the Atlanta one this episode. So,
but come on out and see us at the WHO DAT Nation Fambulance, and we'd love to meet you.
And bring beer.
Yeah, bring beer. I'll trade you a chicken wing for a beer.
Sounds good. And now let's go to the exciting NOPC Tavern. What we got here?
So what we have here in the tavern, as soon as you walk into my house, you'll see immediately that you're in the NOPC Tavern. You just look to the side and you see this right here. You see the pool table, the bar that we're sitting at right now, and you can see a lot of the memorabilia. But when you walk in the house, you're immediately in the foyer, which is attached to it. And in the foyer, you're most likely to run into Clover.
Oh, yes.
Yes, my dog Clover. She's vicious. She's a lab, because labs are known for being vicious.
without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And so you most likely run into Clover.
Are you trying to protect yourself from home games?
Yeah. And right there to your left is before you walk into the tavern, I do have my wine rack and a table right there. So, and a few Saints things and New Orleans things on there. Some of the fancier wines I have in my wine rack. I have the Bobby Hebert Cajun Cannon wine. I did have, I think it was a Morton Anderson wine, but I drank it. And I wasn't thinking.
So is the Bobby Hebert one filled with any crab boil or crawfish boil?
I don't know. I didn't read it. And I don't plan on ever drinking it because it probably doesn't age well. But another fine wine I have there, of course, everybody has to have one of these. Bottle of Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. As you're entering into the room, we have the Saints Championship banner hanging right there. Underneath it, some more Labradors and the Saints. And that clock there is not the same one, but similar to the one my grandfather used to have. Because when you walk into this room, that pool table and the bar were both my grandfather's.
So it's a grandfather clock.
There you go.
So I have an important question. Where's the next banner going to go?
The next banner? I don't have a picture of it, but I have a whole nother wall that I can just hang, a dozen banners on.
Okay.
So
just wanted to make sure that the banners were well represented.
And as you can see behind Michael right now are some of my pennants that I'm proud of. The Drew Brees autographed pennant. And then my second favorite football team, the Chelsea Football Club from the Premier League. And then we have the LSU National Championship pennant, Hornets pennant, and a Voodoo pennant. Then we get behind the bar, and that's my grandparents. That's my grandmother and grandfather, who this bar belonged to, and the pool table belonged to. So this is not Saints related, but this is probably the thing I'm most proud of in my entire bar is my Canby Black and Green Label liquor.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody's ever going to drink it unless you break it to my house and drink it, but I will find you. I will hunt you down. Oh, and behind it, we have the Saints Homecoming, the game we were just talking about when U2 and Green Day played and the blocked punt and all that. So there's the poster from kickoff that day. Okay, what we have here is my Super Bowl tickets. The entire season that we went to the Super Bowl, playoff tickets, and the Super Bowl ticket. Just framed. That has a wall all to itself, except for the little KB sticker next to it.
Can I ask you, minus the Super Bowl, what was your favorite game that year?
My favorite game that year? Oof. You know what? And it is a good story. And let me move the computer so we can get back on. My favorite game that year is because I had a dream that the Saints went undefeated until we played the Redskins
Wow, okay.
And in my dream, I was watching the game, and we lost to the Redskins in a tight game. So we were watching the game, and the Redskins were winning. I don't know if you remember that game.
I do. That was the famous Meacham strip and score.
So my wife said, as I already told you, she's superstitious and hex and all. She's like, so in your dream, you were watching the game, right? So they locked me in my office without a TV and said, we had a party at our house and said, you cannot watch this game because in your dream, you watched the game.
Oh, yes.
So I didn't watch the rest of the game because we were losing. And that miraculously we won the game. So
I think every New Orleans Saints fan has that story. Like, I've had stories where my mom had to stay in the garage because right when she went in the garage, it was like a deep 50-yard touchdown pass.
I spent a half hour on the toilet because I said, no, you can't come out. I'm like, can you stand me a piece of pizza under the door?
Just slide a slice.
Well, he's my charger.
I was like, no, you weren't eating in there when we scored.
Oh, man. Full on lockdown.
So let's get back to seeing what's around this room. Next up, we have this is a seat from Tulane Stadium. My grandpa, because the seats weren't very comfortable at Tulane Stadium, so a lot of people had these cushioned seats they bought. So this was the Saints, what the Saints sold to their fans at Tulane Stadium. Next, and this is a pretty cool piece, and this is a picture of the first Saints team ever. So Gilliam's in there, all those guys are in there, and it's all autographed. Granted, this is a reproduction. This is a copy of somebody else's picture, and how I got it, I'm not going to tell you how I got it, but
That's next week's trivia question.
No, there's a few things in this room that are better I've not said how I got it. Then we just have some action figures and some other paraphernalia. There's Archie Manning. This football right here, when the Saints had their quarterback club luncheon right before they left to go play the Raiders in the last preseason game, they're flying out to play the Raiders right after the quarterback luncheon, but all the players were there. And so a friend of mine bought a table, invited me to go, and at this, actually my brother got to go backstage with all the players before they came out, so I gave him this football, and he started getting it signed by the players. And then the players came out, and I got a lot more of them to sign it afterwards. So behind it, you can't see the pictures, but there's Jeremy Shockey signing it, Drew Brees signing it, Sean Payton signing it, just to prove that this is legit. And the Saints went on to win the Super Bowl that year.
Is that Charles Grant right there in the middle? 94?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So, and then NFL screwed that. That's from last year.
Of course.
Yeah, so, moving on to the next thing that you'll find in here, there's the double starting lineup with Peyton and Archie Manning. They never made a triple one with Eli. Poor Eli. 2 Super Bowl MVPs and still no respect.
Bless his heart.
And not even a Cooper in the background.
This is just some pins from where I went in 8th grade. St. John Prep doesn't exist anymore, so that's just no personal memorabilia from a football team. Going on underneath on the next shelf, there we have the Hornets. The Hornets bobbleheads, except for Peja. The white guy gets an action figure. So Peja got an action figure, and the rest of them got bobbleheads. And you see in the background there's a Peja head on a stick, because they used to run around with the big Peja head at the games.
3!
This is underneath. This is my archives. So this is stuff I don't have on the shelves. And there's some more Harry Lee bobbleheads, a Blaine Kern bobblehead, some Chris Paul and other Hornets bobbleheads, and just random more Saint stuff that didn't make the cut until I get a bigger room. Some Saints legends, Morton Anderson, Bobby Hebert, and some other players there, cards. Actually, I'm a big Cubs fan, and a lot of people in New Orleans are Cubs fans because growing up, we only got to watch 2 baseball teams on WGN and TBS. So it's either Braves or Cubs, and I already told you how I feel about everything Atlanta. So I'm a Cubs fan. So there's a Chris Bryant bobblehead I got this year when I went to see the Cubs play. And there we go. This is a Saints wreath, and of course in the middle of the Saints wreath, which I pulled out to show you all already, is the Atlanta Falcons voodoo doll.
So your prediction is in trouble.
Well, it is. I honestly don't think I need the voodoo doll.
Colonels!
There we go.
Colonels!
There we go. 2 Nichols alums sitting here with me, and I've been at Nichols longer than either of you, but but yes, that's the lone Nichols Colonels thing I have in the saber, but it's a pretty cool foam saber.
I'm stealing that before I leave today.
And then we have LSU National Championship newspaper and the ticket from when I went to the game. And a picture of all of us that went to the game together. and some more Saints legends. But most of these cards are autographed on this one. I think Dalton Hilliard's in there, but some Saints legends. Of course, Amen. Amen.
One of the best titles.
Definitely.
This one is a piece of game turf from the Super Bowl, from the Saints end zone. It's black on top, so this is actual, and no, I didn't steal it because we paid for this because we're that stupid of Saints fans. We say you can own a piece of the field, and we're like, well, I'm buying it.
Sign me up.
So I own that, and this one right here is a bead, and that turf inside of that is from the NFC Championship game that we won to go to the Super Bowl. So that's some Superdome turf in that one. That's just a ball I bought in Miami at the Walmart across the street from the stadium. There's my Saints library, some history of the Saints books, that comic book which you saw earlier in the podcast, magazines, all that stuff is in there, and some more Saints memorabilia, like the Deuce McAllister autographed. I think it's a McFarlane or something. And the Superdome Cokes. And then the old starting lineups. You're going to see Ruben Mays, Pat Sterling.
Oh, yes.
Of course, Bobby Hebert. As you can tell, I wasn't always the brightest, so I played with some of them. So not all of them are still in the box. Some more starting lineups, Saints players. And then this is the St. Louis Sucks pin.
Oh, wow.
Wore that in the stadium for our first playoff win ever when Hakeem drops the ball.
Hakeem drops the ball.
Hakeem drops the ball. There is a God.
That was the first Saints game I actually ever watched on TV, and it's one of my earliest memories of football.
That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely, because the first actual NFL game I watched was the Rams-Titans Super Bowl, and that
was a good one too.
Yeah, so I remember both of those games vividly, and earliest memories of football. So yeah.
And there's George. George always stands in the corner. He just hangs out there, and he wears my St. Patrick's Day hat and holds the umbrella when I'm not using it. Behind George, Ricky Jackson mask. As you can see, WWL Radio put that out years ago when Ricky Jackson was playing. Everybody has them. Everybody had them. Barks put out too, and I got Ricky Jackson to sign it. When Ricky Jackson signed it, he tried to steal it from me. He was on a float, and he just put it down and started riding off. And we're like, Ricky, please give it back. He's like, I don't have one. Obviously, he gave it back
when he saw a grown man cry.
I just have this up there because I want to make that the Hall of Fame corner, and I need to get something Morton Anderson in that corner too, which I do have something Morton Anderson, but we'll talk about that later towards that corner. But this is the Willie Roaf jersey that my son wore when he was really, really young. I want to get that autographed.
Yeah.
This is the brass. I don't know if y'all remember the brass.
Yes.
I do.
I miss them.
These are the tickets. What was that? 1997. Their inaugural game, their first game. This is the tickets. I went to that game, and also I went to this first game too. The Hornets' very first game against the Jazz. This is a really big. You may not be able to tell from the picture here, but it's a really big fleur-de-lis taken up the wall, and that's another thing that we're not going to tell you how I got. Okay. And finally, this has been in my house since I was a kid. My dad had this LSU toilet seat hanging on the wall in our house ever since I was a kid. And I'm a fan of all things New Orleans. So I put what's underneath the toilet seat there just because it's tradition in my family to have it there. What we have under it is a Tulane sticker.
Because people forget there was a rivalry between them.
Well, yeah, when Tulane could play. Tulane used to be in the SEC, for a while. So Tulane wasn't always Tulane. But no, I'm a Tulane fan too. I went to a Tulane game last year when they beat Nichols, but
well, that's just rude.
but I guess Tulane is water. They belong in the toilet bowl. So that's it. There's just a close up of the pool table. So we're probably gonna play pool after this podcast because that's why I have it. So, but anyway. That's it. I think that's it for the podcast. I think y'all drank all the beer.
Wait, there's more though.
Oh, the trivia.
All right, so now the answer to the trivia question. And why don't you refresh our audience members on what the trivia question was?
The trivia question was the 1988 comic book that somebody put out for the Saints. The one and only edition of this comic book had Bobby Hebert and what other Saints legend on there. And I'll let you know that this comic book goes in the corner with Willie Roaf and Ricky Jackson, because this is the other Hall of Famer, the third Hall of Famer that the Saints have. And who is that? Come on, y'all know.
Morton Anderson.
Morton Anderson, the Great Dane. The guy who's going to teach women soccer players how to kick in the NFL. God bless him.
Carly Lloyd coming at you.
Yeah, so, yes, Morton Anderson and Bobby Hebert were on the first issue of the Saints comic book. Check it out. Maybe you can find it online. I bought this at a garage sale probably 10 years ago.
Novelty.
But if you want to find out anything we talked about today, the links to the videos, you want to find out more about Mike Hotard's show, the Hotard Huddle, or anything else about the Fandolance, everything, go to NolaSome.com. We'll have the podcast posted up there. We have a blog that gives you all the links. We'll have the audio version of the podcast, which can also be found on Spotify, and I'm working on iTunes.
So, how was your first episode at the NOPC Tavern?
Fantastic, man. It was a lot of fun. Always enjoy talking football, specifically Saints, and I'm glad you guys invited me on.
Well, I cheer, but there's no more beer.
I have some. I'll cheers for all of us.
The slideshow was really enjoyable.
See y'all next week.
See you next week.
But here in New Orleans, we take two things real seriously. We take our drinking seriously, and we take our football, our Saints, seriously. Who dat, huh? And so ever since I was little, I've been having Saints season tickets. I have Saints season tickets now. I have 15 jerseys. But ever since I was little, I've had Saints season tickets, and ever since I was little, I snuck alcohol into the Superdome. Because that's what you got to do. It's just too expensive to get drunk in the Superdome. What beers cost like $12 now for like a thimble of beer. You just can't afford to do it. You either need a pregame or pregame and sneak shit in. Well, years ago, I went to a game with my wife and some friends in Houston, and I figured same thing. It's going to be expensive to get drunk in the stadium there. So I took 12 beers, and I hid these beers all over my body like I was sneaking shit into prison. I mean, I had it shoved in uncomfortable places. We're walking up to the gate, and this is back really before they all used metal detectors. So these are canned beers. So we're walking up to the gate, and I had this big militant-looking motherfucker taking his job way too seriously, just frisking everybody. Just, you know, he could tell you religion by the way he was grabbing on people. And my wife looks back, she's like, "What are you gonna do?" I was like, "I'm not sure, I'll think of something. Y'all go on in behind the gate, I'll think of something." Because you gotta remember, one, we take our drinking seriously. I'm not throwing out 12 beers. Two, I'm not missing kickoff. I take my Saints seriously. Yeah. So I step back, I look at the guy, I'm like, he's from Texas, I'm from New Orleans. He's got some preconceived notions about people from New Orleans. I got this. I walk right up to him, I go, "Oh, my favorite part of the game, the pat down." Dude goes, "You good, man, going in."